Ladies and gentlemen, Christoph the Polish Geek welcomes you with another video in the You Should Be Watching series. The Prince of Egypt is one of my favorite animated movies of all time. It's totally among the likes of Disney's Pinocchio, Sword of the Stranger that also got a You Should Be Watching treatment, Guillermo del Toro's Pinocchio, How to Train Your Dragon trilogy, and many other amazing animated movies. Even leaving out my Catholic faith, I still very much would consider The Prince of Egypt as one of the best animated movies ever created. Like, it's so well written, with such a gorgeous story. And when it comes to a best DreamWorks movie, many people would either choose Shrek or How to Train Your Dragon. Never been a huge fan of Shrek franchise, actually. Always found it so overrated. Although I do really love Puss in Boots: The Last Wish. I really love though How to Train Your Dragon, as I just said before, and I actually think this is my favorite animated franchise. Yes, even more than Toy Story, but the best DreamWorks movie of all time is still The Prince of Egypt all the way. I will leave out my Christian religion here when it comes to discussing that animated masterpiece. It certainly plays a role, but this is also the best adaptation of the story of Exodus I ever seen. Exodus, Gods and Kings by Ridley Scott wasn't that good, which is also sad since I'm a huge Ridley Scott fan and The Ten Commandments, while a great movie, suffers from pacing midway through. The Prince of Egypt though is an example of an epic animated movie, and like Guillermo del Toro's Pinocchio, this is not the type of movie I could see kids enjoying at all. This is very much an adult movie. Many animated movies are made as type of movies that both kids and adults can enjoy. But I think this is actually one of those animated movies that I think is decidedly for adults, even if technically it isn't marketed as such. The story of Moses and Ramses is simply excellent. I love the dynamic between two adopted brothers. But then later Moses learns the truth about himself and leaves Egypt. And later, God commands him to come back and free his people, which leads to conflict between Moses and Ramses. But we'll get to discussing the story later. The animation in this movie is simply beautiful. Character animation, the landscape, textures are all simply feast for the eyes and so beautifully drawn. Also, I also love the emotions expressed on characters' faces. When it comes to animation alone, this is literally one of the best looking movies I've ever seen and one of the best hand-drawn animations ever. The songs in Prince of Egypt are great, like for example Deliver Us or You're Playing with the Big Boys Now.
You're playing with the big boys now.
The Plagues, Through Heaven's Eyes, or When You Believe, and you have some of the best songs in any animated movie. My favorite one is by far The Plagues, and it also matches a creepy and intimidating sequence in a movie.
Once I called you brother. Once I thought the chance to make you laugh was all I ever wanted.
And that song also shows many things, how far Moses and Ramses have drifted and how innocent citizens of Egypt have really been affected by Ramses' rule and the plagues that now are happening to Egypt, and also how Moses and the Hebrews are also sort of being affected by the plagues. And those soundtracks don't just sound great, they also very much push the story forward. Besides the plagues, another soundtrack I really love is Through Heaven's Eyes.
So how can you see what your life is worth, or where your value lies? You can never see through the eyes of man. You must look at your life.
I already said it before and I will say it again, but the story of this movie is simply excellent, as are the characters. The two main leads here are simply fantastic. Moses and Ramses start as adopted brothers and both go through some of the best character development I ever seen in any movie or fiction for that matter. At the beginning of the movie, they are just adopted, fun-loving brothers, and Moses, despite being adopted, it is clear that the Pharaoh actually favors him over his real son Ramses. And Moses is actually more selfish and spoiled of the two brothers. Later, Moses learns the truth about his Hebrew heritage and that his father, the Pharaoh, ordered the slaughter of the Hebrew babies. So, he confronts his father about this, and this is also one of the best and most disturbing scenes in the movie, because the Pharaoh comforts Moses with fatherly love and says that they were only slaves.
They were only slaves.
Which shows that Pharaoh might be a loving father, but he's also a very cold-hearted monarch and a tyrant who doesn't view the Hebrews as human beings. Truly awesome and powerful acting and visuals in this scene too. And Moses, of course, rightfully leaves his adopted family after this. And later, by the time Moses already knows about who he is and that he's a Hebrew, and he returns to Egypt and asks Ramses to free his people. But Ramses is now a hardened pharaoh and wants to be better than his father ever was. And the minute Moses asks Ramses to free the Hebrews, we already know the huge change in character of Ramses and that their brotherly relationship is over at this point. And even though both brothers feel very sad about it, this is also marks the beginning of time of when they become enemies. And this is also the point where Ramses steps into a role of an evil villain and a tyrant, equally evil as his father was before him. The scene where Moses returns to Egypt and Ramses welcomes him with open arms and wants good old days back when they were brothers and loved each other. It is a very heartbreaking scene. And sure, Ramses is now as evil as his father was before him, and he continues enslaving the Hebrews and views them as nothing but slave labor, but it still doesn't change the fact that it is a very heartbreaking scene for the audience, just as much as it is heartbreaking for Moses and Ramses, when they both realize that both are very changed men at this point, and now they are destined to be enemies. And Ramses is at this point a cold-hearted pharaoh, just as his father was before him. But yet, you can't help but feel some sympathy for him, as Moses clearly does. Ramses is one of those characters that you both want to feel sorry for them, but at some scenes you just want to kill him with your bare hands, especially when he praises his evil father and wants to exterminate all of the Hebrews. This takes some truly good writing. The ending of Prince of Egypt is also very heartbreaking. This is not just a religious epic and an epic animated movie. This is also very much a story of two adopted brothers who deeply loved each other, and maybe if the circumstances were different, the situation wouldn't be this way. And it's also pretty relatable to how sometimes we might change and how our relationships with our family members or close friends can also change.
Goodbye, brother.
The Prince of Egypt truly is one of the greatest animated movies ever made, and it's most certainly one of my favorites. Not only speaks to my Catholic faith, but it hits every criteria that I very much want in a great movie. It is so well written, and it has so interesting and complex characters, while also tells a thoughtful and engaging story, with an added bonus of having a very gorgeous animation. It's absolutely my top 5 favorite animated movies of all time, and it's absolutely my favorite DreamWorks movie, and it's even in my top 20 favorite movies of all time. The Prince of Egypt is a truly amazing animated epic masterpiece. So, ladies and gentlemen, that concludes another You Should Be Watching video, and press the like button. Please subscribe to this channel, and I will talk to you soon in another movie review. Talk to you right then. Bye.